I'm afraid our conversation is of a more formal nature this time.
So the Major was murdered?
It appears so.
You can't think that I did it, though.
I will be questioning everyone over the course of the evening, and your cooperation will certainly speed up that process.
I was here in the salon, minding my own business, enjoying my own company.
Minding your business from whom?
Comtesse, what's her name, and my brother. Apart from wanting to congratulate him for a great right hook, there was nothing I had to say to.
Comtesse de Vos? And they will both confirm you were here?
If she had taken a moment to notice anything besides herself, she will tell you I was here the whole time.
I think that is all for now. Bonsoir, Monsieur Beckers. Merci for speaking with me.
Monsieur Poirot, or should it be Detective Poirot now?
Detective Poirot is perfect, merci. I would like to begin with a few questions.
Go right ahead, Detective Poirot. I took great pleasure in seeing the Major's ego as well as his face take a bruising, and then I made my way to the library.
Where you spoke with Mademoiselle Conrad.
And yourself? Yes.
We were the only two that you spoke with.
One of the servants brought me a drink, and I was telling her about the benefits of joining a union. She didn't understand what it truly meant to be a part of something. Something bigger than just her. I was trying to explain to her how...
Monsieur.
Oh, yes, it was just the two of you, and the servant.
And you are sure there was no one else present?
I'm not sure what you're getting at, Detective. You were there.
Merci, Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation. Monsieur de Silva, merci for obliging me.
A detective comes to a party and a dead body shows up. Coincidental, don't you think?
A man's death is not a matter to joke on, monsieur.
Who said anything about a joke? I am saying what I see.
Then perhaps you can tell me what it was you saw this evening.
Following whatever that was in the hall, I moved to the library.
Is there anyone that can confirm that?
Miss Conrad and Beckers were in there, arguing about something. The books held my interest far more than their conversation.
You did not speak with them until dinner was served?
I had no reason to get involved with their little spat. It was clear they didn't want me to hear, and that suited me just fine.
Merci for your... Monsieur Demir, I am sorry your celebrations have taken a rather dark turn.
As am I, Detective. I hope we will be able to bring this investigation to an end post-haste.
With your cooperation, I will do my very best.
I was here in the salon. I thought I would have a moment of peace to calm myself, but the Comtesse and my brother followed behind.
Did they inquire into the reasons behind the fight in the hall?
I think they both saw it as some light entertainment, more than anything else.
The Comtesse does not strike me as one to enjoy violence.
And not so much violence, but karma for the Major, perhaps. You did not hear how he spoke to my wife-to-be. She is still rather upset about the whole thing.
If you would be so kind as to stay here, I may require your help further. Comtesse, I am sorry our next conversation must be under such formal circumstances.
It is not the first time Felix has ruined a good party.
The current state of tonight's celebrations is the least of my priorities, Comtesse.
Well, it's at the top of mine, Detective. I did not come here for a wake.
Perhaps then we should proceed with my questions and you can get back to celebrating.
It would be my pleasure, chérie. I did. I thought by staying in one place, it would be easy for the staff to bring me my drinks. How wrong I was.
And who else was present in here?
The handsome groom-to-be and his brother, although Zachariah, is it, made a rather sharp exit at one stage.
Did he say where he was going?
He barely said 2 words to either of us. I think he was more concerned with his drink.
Merci, Countess. If I have any further questions, I shall be sure to come and find you. Mademoiselle Conrad, I am sure you understand the delicate nature of the situation.
I knew I had seen your face before. You were just an officer when that story hit the paper.
You have a très bon memory, mademoiselle. That was a long time ago.
You can't escape the past, especially when you go and do something like that.
That is very true, but one can learn from it and create a better future.
What would you say to an
Please, mademoiselle. Catching the Major's killer is my sole concern right now. Now, if you would be so kind, I have some questions for you.
I arrived, unpacked my bags in my room, and made it downstairs just in time to see the Major take a right hook from Gideon. And then I went to check out the library.
And you were joined by Monsieur Beckers.
And Ernesto, or Monsieur Silver, as you say. But after he ignored my attempt at pleasantries, I left him to his book in the corner.
And your conversation with Monsieur Beckers that I interrupted.
You are a persistent one, aren't you? Makes sense now I know who you really are. You'll just have to wait and read about it in the paper like everyone else.
You have been most helpful. I request you do not go too far. Merci. Things are beginning to become clearer. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together. What a revelation! Some would say a lucky guess. Magnifique.
I'm an open book, Poirot. I told you already. I was here in the salon.
And you did not leave even once.
Well, I had to use the bathroom. I didn't realize I had to update you every time nature called.
You may keep your calls of nature to yourself, merci. And then you returned to the salon?
If you don't believe me, ask Archibald. He saw me on his way up to the study.
I think that is all for now.
Whatever you require, Detective. I know you are probably used to dealing with criminals, but not everyone is trying to hide something.
I hope for your sake that you do not hide anything from me.
What is it you think I'm hiding?
I struggle to believe you did not know of Monsieur da Silva's presence in the library.
Is that what this is about? I saw him hiding in the corner, pretending to read. I'd be surprised if he even could. I did not speak to him, and he certainly didn't make any attempt to speak with me.
Monsieur Demire invited you here to speak with him. You didn't see that as a fitting time too?
I was speaking with Jacqueline, and quite frankly, I was in no mood to be dealing with that man.
Merci, Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation.
More questions?
Merci for your... Can you confirm seeing Monsieur Demire in the hall this evening?
Zachariah, yes. I was on my way with a bottle of whiskey to the Major. He shouted a rather ignorable greeting to me and asked for directions to the bathroom.
I presume you showed him the way?
Aye, Detective. I showed him to the hall bathroom. I didn't think it was wise to attempt the stairs, not in that state.
I must act on thought and fact, not on impulse. Another success. I never... Things are beginning to become clearer. Magnifique. What a revelation.
I'm an open book, Poirot. Why would I? I've got nothing to say to him, except maybe to keep his hands off what is ours.
What is yours that he could want?
Money, of course. Why do you think he has been suckling at the Van den Bosch teat for so long? He's bled them dry, and now they will all do the same to our money.
Our?
My father's, Gideon's, it's all the same. When you have not been on level playing fields for years, it's hard to have a fair game.
I am afraid I do not quite understand.
If we're playing golf, he has a full set of clubs and a caddy in the form of my father, and I have the old split putter. Make sense now?
Perfectly. I think that is all for now.
Whatever you require, Detective. Yes, Gideon invited me. If you will recall from our previous conversation, we have been working together and he thought now would be a good time to discuss matters.
To discuss business at the celebration of his engagement?
We're all here, so what better time? He thought Da Silva might even let his guard down if he was in a more jubilant mood. It would be wise to not continue to ignore us any longer.
And what business was it that was so urgent?
We're trying to resolve the worker strikes. It has gone on long enough. Now is the time for him to listen to our demands so we can put an end to it all. Put the violence and upset behind us. I am fighting for the basic rights of our workers. Nothing more. If he can't see that, he is a lesser man than I already thought.
And where does Monsieur Gédéon fit into the negotiations? And his brother?
His brother? I didn't even know he had a brother until I arrived here. Gideon certainly hasn't talked much about him. I get the sense there's not much love lost between them. I know that I don't think, or didn't think, a great deal of him. I'm just sorry I didn't get the chance to tell him what I thought.
The man has recently been murdered.
Someone must stand up to men like him, with their crooked dealings and lack of, well, any compassion at all.
Another rousing speech, monsieur.
It's the truth. If you knew what I know, maybe he wouldn't be dead, but behind bars instead. Last I saw, he was outside having a cigar.
Oui, I spoke with him myself, but that was some time ago.
He does love a cigar. You'd have to stand out in those conditions. I could barely see him through the snow. Anger, yes, but that's all. I wouldn't kill a man.
You must see why this leads me to have suspicions.
You can't honestly think I did it. I am a man of peace. I make changes with words, not with violence.
Merci, Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation.
More questions? I suppose so. Felix, I didn't know him that well. We spoke a handful of times. I met him through Cassandra. I thought him to be rather pompous.
But you remained polite, as any gentleman would.
Of course. What is there to say? She's a remarkable woman, and I admire her. Even after Edwin's death, she held herself with such poise.
It sounds as though you hold her in the highest regard.
And why shouldn't I? Women these days could take a leaf out of her book on how to present themselves. That is correct.
And the reason for your support was always of a purely platonic nature.
If you're trying to insinuate that I was expecting something in return, you can remove your head from the gutter.
I meant no offense. I'm only trying to understand the dynamic of your relationship.
He had approached me about doing some business together. I like to know who I'm getting into bed with first.
And you both went ahead with your business venture.
Not so much a business venture, more security related. But there is no need to discuss that any further.
Is there something you wish to remain hidden about your partnership, monsieur?
It was far from a partnership. I hired him to run security at my factories. If the workers were going to get violent, I wanted to make sure I was ready to protect my property.
Merci for your call.
No trouble at all. How can I help? I have lent my voice to some discussions. I have tried to facilitate meetings. Just positive support.
Does that positive support include sending letters to those on the opposing side?
Detective Poirot, I'm not sure what you think I have done.
Monsieur, a letter has been found threatening the Major of what might happen if he does not act promptly, and now he has wound up dead.
You think my sending him a letter, warning him not to get involved, means I murdered him?
At this time, it is certainly reason for me to be suspicious.
I have been funding the strikes, Detective. These men deserve fair treatment, and a wage that fits the hard work they undertake every single day. The Major didn't see that. All he cared about was the money for his services, and that is all I care to discuss. What do you mean?
I do not mean to pry, only I imagine the whole room was aware of his celebrating with a bottle.
You must be mistaken. Neither my brother nor I drink. We aren't the closest, but what brothers are?
I would argue that many are.
We've lived very different lives. Our priorities are different. He does not see things the way I do. There isn't much more to say. I knew of him more than actually knowing him myself. In the past, he made his feelings towards my brother and I quite clear.
And that was not in a positive way.
I certainly wouldn't call trying to get Angeline to postpone the engagement positive.
If you would be so kind as to stay here, I may...
I am all yours, Detective. What of it?
Do you believe there was something more to their friendship?
As I have said, Detective, I am not one to gossip.
I would not even consider your name and that word in the same sentence.
Because it is not gossip when it's the truth. Why else do you think he would stay around for so long? Yes, he was a friend and partner to the Viscount, but it is plain to see it is Cassandra's partnership he longs for. Why would I actively choose to speak to that wretched man?
You were quite adamant of your protection of Madame. If he was as awful as you portrayed him to be, there must have been some words spoken, or perhaps written?
He was quite aware of how I felt towards him, and the lengths he has gone to remain close to the family. That is all that needs to be said.
I must admit, I would not want to be on the receiving end of your tongue's wrath, Countess.
Wise thinking, detective. I imagine she will have shed a tear for him, but she should not waste any more.
You don't think she would? Or you don't want her to?
I have made it quite clear what I think of that man, alive or dead. I would not... He was a disgusting leech that was driven only by money and power, like most men.
I can assure you not all men are concerned with such egotistical wealth.
That may be, but they are few and far between. I believe you are a special case, Detective Poirot.
It is not the first time I have been described in such a way.
Embrace the compliment, Detective. You have set yourself apart from the horrid crétins that seem to somehow make their way into positions of authority and power.
And that is what the Major was doing? Using Madame Van den Bosch as his ladder to the top?
You are finally seeing the man he was. A weak and self-indulgent social climber.
Merci, Countess. If I...
You came to the right place. What do you need? I know that he was not the good and honest man he liked to think he was.
In what sense?
If you spoke to him for longer than 5 minutes, you'd know. I've met people in dark alleys I trust before him.
And on the occasions when you did speak with him, what was discussed?
I'm sorry, Poirot. If you're looking for a deep-seated secret between me and him, you're going to be disappointed. I don't know if you really would. She's got a mouth the size of Texas, except when it comes to truths about her. She wants everyone to think that she's the savior of these girls at the shelter. But there's a side to her I don't think anyone gets to see.
And what side is that?
One that she is keeping tucked away under her very expensive dress. That man has got some real anger issues. I get why he's frustrated. He's trying his best for the workers, but holding on to rage like that, something's gonna burst. If you think you can use me as some sort of gossip machine,
I can assure you it is not a case of gossiping. At this point, everything may be relevant to my investigation.
So I would be helping you potentially solve a crime? You should have said that off the bat. To say he's smitten is an understatement. I reckon he's been wanting her for years.
I see. Madame does not feel the same?
Doesn't look like it. If she did, she would have said something about it, right?
You have been most helpful. I request you do not go too far.
I'm an open book, Poirot. That doesn't surprise me, and yet no one actually asks.
I am asking now.
I should have expected that, shouldn't I? What is there to say?
I would find it very helpful if you could at least elaborate on your relationship.
He went to school, got an education, and was the apple of our father's eye. I went to war. See the difference now. If you want to know about Gideon's part in the Union, why don't you ask him?
So, you are aware of his support for them?
Yes, well, he...
Oui, monsieur?
It'd be best to just ask him.
I think that is all for now.
No trouble at all. I believe there are more important matters at hand than talking about my brother and I's relationship, or lack thereof.
The murderer is in his house, and by holding back information that may help my investigation, you only make me suspicious of your involvement. Monsieur Demir, if you continue to withhold information, I can only assume you are hiding something, and must treat you as a prime suspect in the Major's murder.
I have nothing to hide. If you must know, we have not been on the best terms for years now. As I said, we are different people. He does not see the importance of planning for the future, and as much as my parents tried, they could not make him see that.
He still believes that now?
I assume so. We barely talk anymore. I was hoping we would be able to sit down and talk and leave the past behind. But this evening has not panned out that way.
If you would be so kind as to stay here, I may require your help further.
I am all yours, detective.
Countess, you gave me the impression the Major and the Madame were close, but there were times where he acted rather aggressively to her, n'est-ce pas?
I am sorry, detective, but I did not mean to give you such an impression. Ever the charmer, detective. I would talk more on it, but I'm afraid Cassandra would think I am talking about her behind her back. It is not often I am swayed so easily. I applaud you on your willingness and persistence. From day one, I was wary of his intentions. And it was not long before he showed his true colors. If it is a tear she sheds, it should be one of joy that he is out of her life.
I understand your feelings towards the Major, but perhaps there was...
He was a bully. He took his shortcomings out on her, and she sat there and accepted it. I never thought I would see the day. Perhaps now she will be able to see the man he truly was. Karma will always catch up to you.
Merci, Countess. If I have any further questions...
You came to the right...
You have been most helpful. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. Another success. I never doubted myself. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together.
More question.
Mademoiselle Conrad was quick to talk of your hidden feelings towards her, perhaps only hidden to Madame Vanden Bosch herself.
What has this got to do with the Major's death? Does Cassandra know you have spoken to others about this? I have only tried to help her. There may be some feelings there, but Madame Vanden Bosch does not know of them, and I trust that it will remain that way.
Merci for your cooperation. My time with the guests is complete, for tonight, at least.
Do you know who killed Major Hagen?
I am afraid it is not as simple as that. There are many steps that lead to the truth. I must think on everything I have heard this evening and dissect the truths from the lies. Merci for your assistance this evening. Au revoir. Another success. I never doubted myself. Things are beginning to become... Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment of genius. What a revelation! Magnifique. Entrez.
Detective, I'm sorry I did not join you in the salon as requested.
Please, mademoiselle. There is no need to apologize.
I was with Maman in her room. She would not allow anyone to see it, but I could see she was terribly upset.
Most understandable.
Do you have any suspicions as to who could have killed him?
I'm afraid my suspicions extended across all of the party's guests. While it seems as though their alibis all corroborate one another's, the disdain and hostility towards the Major makes them rife with motive.
I know there was some bad blood between the Major and some of the guests, but not enough to kill him, surely. She may seem tough on the exterior, but she's really quite kind when you get to know her.
The Countess? She is a formidable force I would not want to come up against.
Don't be silly, Detective. She wouldn't hurt a soul. Jacqueline, I mean. I assume that's who you were talking about, Detective, after what happened between them.
That is a story I have yet to hear.
She must have told you about the piece she was writing on us, about Gideon's work and our marriage.
Somehow, that was the only thing she did not mention.
That's strange. I thought that is what she would have started the conversation with. Well, she had come to the house to interview me, and when I entered the library, she was there with Felix amid a rather heated conversation.
Do you know what this conversation regarded?
I'm afraid not, but Felix was quite enraged. He picked up an envelope from the table and stormed out, slamming the door behind him.
And Mademoiselle Conrad?
She was equally heated in the moment. She had a few choice words for him that I wouldn't care to repeat. I'm sorry, but I just can't imagine any of them committing such a heinous crime.
It can often be hard to look past one's personal feelings for someone and see their flaws.
It's not that, Detective. It's just they have known each other for years. Why would any of them act now?
I was under the impression the Major had merely a business relationship with some of the guests.
That's true, but those invited know each other, some of them for years. They may not seem like it, but some are even friends. Better, thank you, Detective. She's resting in her room. It is the best place for her.
And you, mademoiselle?
Huh. I'm not quite sure. It is a rather surreal feeling. I did not think I would miss him like I do.
It is understandable. He has been a close friend to your maman for many years.
And to me, Detective. We had grown close. After Father's passing, he was always there for me. And now, he's gone as well.
You must try and not think on it like that.
It is easier said than done, Detective.
I have no doubt, but you can be assured the culprit will not remain at large for long. You have my word.
I should return to my room now, Detective. It has been a trying day for us all.
Oui, mademoiselle. I am afraid tomorrow may bear a resemblance, but I will not stop until I have found his killer.
I am certainly glad you are here, Detective.
When and where a detective is required, that is where I shall be. Bonne nuit, mademoiselle. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together. I should not be surprised by my own skills of I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction. Another success. I never doubted myself.
Good morning, Detective. You slept well?
I'm afraid I did not. I was hoping for at least a moment of pleasant slumber, but alas, it was not to be. Finding the Major's killer is the only thing that will put my mind at ease.
In that case, Detective, what can I do to help? In that snow. If someone was out there, we'd have another body on our hands.
I realize how strange it sounds. I would not believe it myself if I had not seen it with my own eyes.
Staff have reported seeing things in the dark before, but it always just turns out to be shadows. It was likely just your mind playing tricks. I'm afraid our Lizzie is not well. I think the events of yesterday were too much for her. We'll have to just make do without her this morning.
As Wordsworth once stated, rest and be thankful. Perhaps a chance of peace and relaxation will work wonders.
She is currently eating breakfast alone in the dining room. It's how she prefers it. But if you wish to speak with her now... I would, but I'm afraid I found this morning that the telephone lines aren't working. The snow continued through the night and must have damaged them. Even if we could use the telephone, I don't think anyone would be able to reach us.
In that case, it will be up to myself alone to solve the case.
I'll let you know if anything changes. But until some of the snow clears, enough for the carriages to arrive, we are snowed in. Taken care of. Master Dremir and his brother, after sobering up, helped me move him into the cellar. Best place for the time being.
Très bien. I imagine there is no reason for anyone to go down there.
Besides me, no one. Once this snow clears, we will be able to move him from the house.
Your assistance has been most valuable as always.
Good morning, Detective. I hope you were comfortable last night.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. The room was more than pleasant, merci. I'm afraid my mind was not in a state to enjoy it to its full potential, though.
I can't imagine any of us slept soundly last night.
Hopefully, guilt will be weighing heavily on someone's shoulders this morning.
I'm sorry if I was not much help last night, Detective.
On the contrary, your inside knowledge of the guests was of great help to my investigation. But there are many more questions that require answers.
A development? Oh, Detective, I knew I could count on you.
It may not be the news you had wished for, though. Another letter has been found.
Addressed to me? I don't know how much more I can take of this.
Pardonnez-moi, mademoiselle. Although it has been written in the same manner, using similar phraseology, it was not sent for your eyes, rather the Major's. Or at least that is how it seems.
I'm sorry, Detective, I don't understand. It is addressed to him or not?
I found it in the Major's study yesterday while conducting my preliminary search. Whether he is the author of the letter or the recipient, I am still yet to discover.
His position? You mean about him living here?
Oui, even in a house this size, you must see a lot of each other.
I enjoyed having him here. When I was away with Gideon, it was comforting to know Maman was not alone. Although his work with Mr. Da Silva has kept him away from the house of late.
What can you tell me about their relationship, working or otherwise?
There is not much to tell, only that there is no love lost between them. He was always quite private about his work. I know that he was helping Mr. Da Silva with some safety matters.
I found a check addressed to the Major from Monsieur Da Silva. It noted security consulting.
Ah, that's right, security. With his military training, he helped Mr. Da Silva prepare for any trouble with the strikes. Heavens no! He could not do that!
You did not hesitate for a moment.
Why would he do such a thing? And then to send a letter to himself? It just doesn't make sense.
Merci for your time, mademoiselle. You are to a detective what an umbrella is to a traveler on a wet day.
Useful?
Exactement. Bonjour, Monsieur Demir.
Detective Poirot, how are you?
The truth, Monsieur. With each step towards uncovering the blackmailer, I am thrown 2 steps back as to the identity of the Major's killer.
Is there something I can help you with? Felix and Madame Vandenbosch are the only ones with keys, as far as I'm aware. Oh, and Archibald. I'm sure I heard Felix asking him to return something to it once. Archibald came to me and asked for my help in the matter. My brother and I dealt with it.
Merci for your help. It is a job that only the professionals should have to undertake.
It's a job that had to be done, although it may have affected my brother more than I.
How so?
At the sight of the body, the color drained from his face. Once we had reached the cellar, Zachariah took himself straight off to bed, without even a good night. I have not seen him since last night. I'm sure he will have been fine after a good night's sleep. He does not need his younger brother checking in on him.
Perhaps that is exactly what he requires.
I'm not sure what he told you yesterday, Detective, but he's a big boy. He can look after himself.
I worry that may not be the case, monsieur. His time in the war came up in conversation more than once during our conversations.
He's still talking about it? I thought talking to the doctor would have stopped all of that.
Merci, monsieur. Comtesse, I wonder if I could ask you some questions.
That is it, detective? No small talk? No inflating of one's ego?
I am afraid not, Comtesse. With the murderer still loose in the house, my mind is rather preoccupied.
Well then, detective, perhaps I can be of some assistance.
Comment, madame?
I thought you might like to know what I found on the Major's body. That certainly piqued your interest.
A man has been murdered, and you find it acceptable to fool around and joke.
Oh, please, detective. Do you really think so little of me? Archibald asked for my assistance. He knows of my medical training from my days as a nurse, and I thought I would be able to help. Even if it has been some years.
It was not his place to grant you access to the body.
I shall remember to keep my assistance to myself next time. A single stab wound, which you no doubt already knew. The knife was held in their right hand. I would say their predominant hand. Judging by the depth of the wound, I would say there was no great force put into the strike. More a sign of defense than attack. If I had to say what weapon was used, a small sharp knife or dagger.
I understand it may be difficult for one to keep such information to yourself, but I ask you to try. Your involvement has already tainted my investigation.
You are welcome, detective.
S'il vous plaît, Comtesse. Keep this information to yourself. Things are beginning to become clear. Some would say a lucky guess. I would say a moment.
If it will help you find the Major's killer, of course. When he returned from the war, he was a different man. Everything became about what he had seen.
I cannot speak from experience, but I can only imagine the horrors he must have witnessed.
The first weeks he would wake in the night, screaming. I found him one night, cowering behind the desk in the study. When I tried to help him out from beneath it, well, it was the first time I had ever feared for my life.
That is not why you two are no longer close?
And not at all, Detective. We were always very different in nature. While I had always wanted to follow an academic path, Zakaria was more of a free spirit. Or at least as free as our father and the laws would allow.
And yet, he ended up in the military. Quite the contrast.
Our father demanded that he at least try to do something with his life. And when some of his friends joined the army, he signed up with them. It wasn't long before he moved out from the family home after his return from the army. I always assumed that he had put the war and everything that came with it behind him and was moving on. Now I see that is far from the truth.
Huh. Oh. Ah. Aha. Huh. Oh. Huh. Hmm. Oh. Aha. Oh. Huh. Bonjour, madame. May I offer my condolences for your loss?
Thank you, Detective, but they are not necessary. What can I do for you?
I was hoping you would be prepared to answer some question.
If I must. What is it you wish to know?
You two have been friends for some time now, and while I do not mean to pry, has your relationship only...
If you are trying to insinuate that Mr. De Silva and I are running around like schoolchildren, you could not be further from the truth. He was friends with my husband, for goodness sake.
Oui, I understand they worked together. Investments, if I am correct.
Mr. De Silva was the voice of reason that my husband should have listened to more often, instead of throwing our money at businesses that were already on the verge of bankruptcy. I'm sure you're aware he was not the easiest man to get along with. His hot temper made him a number of foes.
A hot temper is reason enough to kill a man.
His mouth often acted before his brain. Perhaps someone had grown tired of dealing with it. I assume you are talking about the supposed blackmail letter.
Oui, madame. You know of it?
It arrived shortly after the first. Rather coincidental, if you ask me.
I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say, madame.
He no doubt had secrets hidden away. But do you honestly think Felix had anything of value to his name worth threatening him for?
Perhaps you should enlighten me.
Well, he was here, living in... I wouldn't put it past him to have written it himself in the hopes of getting some sympathy from me.
And the other letters?
He probably wrote those too. If Angeline paid the first, that would have given him the money to pay the second letter. He is the White Knight, saves the day, and expects to live here happily ever after. Seeing as I heard Mr. Becker's in what I would describe as an unnecessarily loud exchange of words yesterday, he would be my first suspect.
You heard them yourself.
How could I not? The volume they were shouting at, I could hear them from the study in my room.
You did not think it fitting to tell me this yesterday?
I didn't think Felix was going to wind up dead and a murderer loose in my house. My apologies, detective.
Merci, madame. I shall not bother you any further. Bonjour, madame. You must be the wonderful cook.
Wonderful and modest, sir. I am Rihanna.
My taste buds thank you for the ravishing meal last night. It has been some time since I ate so well.
Glad to hear it, sir.
S'il te plaît, madame. A detective is fine.
In that case, mademoiselle is fine for me, and I will ignore your presumption of marriage.
Très bon, mademoiselle.
That's right. I've seen staff come and go, but a house always needs a trustworthy cook.
I agree. But if I was to eat what you prepare every day, I fear I may be the size of La Maison.
Not a bad thing, detective. You could do with some meat on your bones.
Well, with the snow still not clearing, we may be stuck here for the weekend. Perhaps I should look to adjust my pantalon buttons.
I did. Monsieur Archie told me what had happened. Bruises can swell fast, so I took him some ice to bring it down.
How was the Major when you saw him?
Grumpy, as always.
I suppose one would not take kindly to being punched as he was.
Punched or not, he was as ungrateful as ever.
I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. What a revelation!
Is there something I can help you with, detective? You have got the wrong end of the stick, detective. Maman has snapped at him recently, but it was nothing more than that. It was something to do with the letter. I heard them in the library before Maman shouted and he stormed out of the room past me.
Could it have been the blackmail letter that instigated their argument?
Why would Maman be upset with him over the letter?
Madame is of a very different opinion from yourself regarding his connection with the letters. She believes him to be the author.
That is what she told you? She has always been one to make a quick, if not rash decision, but she cannot truly believe that. I don't recall telling him directly. I did not want Maman to find out it had been paid. If he knew, surely she would.
Madame believes he may have been behind all the letters, and taking your payment of the first, then used it to pay the second and be the hero in you and your mother's eyes.
I never knew Maman had such an imagination. Where would she get a story like that from?
That is a question I was hoping you may be able to answer.
You have met him. Do you really think he's capable of such a devious plan?
It is a plan only the most crooked and underhanded could create. Is that the Major? I am not so sure. I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. Magnifique.
Is there something I can help? I'm afraid it had been that way for some time. Maman is not forthcoming with her emotions, as I'm sure you are aware. but I could tell she had not been happy with their arrangement for the last few months.
What gave you that impression?
There was not one particular thing that she expressed. It was just the way she spoke to him and of him when he wasn't present.
I shall not keep you any longer.
Whatever you need, Detective. Certainly, Detective.
Oh. Ah. Aha. Huh. The pieces of the puzzle are fun. Things are beginning to become clearer. Some would say a lucky get. What a revelation!
Detective Poirot, I have been asked to inform you that Lady Van den Bosch has returned to her room, and she wishes not to be disturbed.
Merci. Madame certainly has mastered the art of subtlety.
They may not be the exact words she used, but I'm sure you can imagine. Excuse me, I have some further duties to attend to in the pantry.
Huh. Ah. Oh.
Detective Poirot, what do you think?
I have something I wish to discuss with you.
Well, I hope it is important enough to justify barging into one's bedroom.
I assure you it is.
Good, because this has gone on far too long. We are snowed in this house while a murderer runs amok.
I can understand your frustrations, but it is not as simple as...
You were once an incompetent officer, and now it seems you are just as incompetent as a detective.
If I was not being lied to and misled at every turn, perhaps the murderer would already be in custody.
I hope you are not suggesting I had something to do with Felix's murder.
I am suggesting that if I had the support that everyone claims they are offering, we would be in a very different situation.
If you have something you want to ask, I suggest you ask me now. We met before Angeline was born, so he was often at the house when she was growing up.
And where was it you two met?
I was attending an event. Felix was also in attendance as a serving officer.
So it was not through the Viscount that you two met?
I did not require my husband to start conversations on my behalf.
It was you that instigated it then?
My, detective. That active imagination of yours has taken you on quite some journey. I'm sure he has hundreds of letters in there. Most of them could and should have been thrown away a long time ago.
I refer to the letter addressed to you. The one of a romantic nature.
Romantic nature? Oh, please, detective. Felix did not have a romantic bone in his body.
He made his intentions quite clear in the letter. I must admit I myself was surprised.
You really do have quite the active imagination, detective. If that is how you wish to interpret it, so be it. But I can assure you, the Major did not think of me that way, and certainly did not include it in a letter. Edwin spent much of his time away on business before Angeline was born. Felix was a welcome distraction from the loneliness of the house.
You were alone in the house?
The staff continued their duties, of course, But trying to get any sort of sophisticated or cultured conversation from them was like drawing blood from a stone.
And when Angeline was born?
Edwin remained at home. It was his duty as a father.
And the Major?
He had his own business and life to tend to, but we remained in touch via letter. Around the time of Edwin's passing, Felix had relocated to the area.
I think that is all for now. Huh. Mm-hmm. Aha. Ah.
Is this really?
I think that is all for now. Oh. Oh. Huh. Another success. The pieces of the puzzle are finally coming together.
Detective Poirot, are you any closer to uncovering the truth of Felix's involvement with the letters?
I am, mademoiselle. I can confirm that he was not the author of the blackmail letters.
So the author is still out there.
Oui, but it will not be long before they are apprehended, and the only letters they shall be penning will be from behind iron bars.
Your confidence is rather assuring. Thank you, Detective. I'm sorry, Detective. I did not intend to leave your mind so full of thoughts.
No apology is required. It actually made me question my whole chain of thinking. What if there had been a collusion between them, and the Major's murder was planned, organized, and orchestrated to make the investigation seem almost impossible?
Oh my, Detective, that is quite a theory.
Every guest has a motive. You confirmed that with the mention of Mademoiselle Conrad and the Major's fight. Supplying one another with a rock-solid alibi would surely throw off any detective.
But not you.
Correct, mademoiselle. It would take much more to stamp Detective Poirot.
I haven't seen that book in so long. Yes, it was a gift for my 10th birthday. I have read it from cover to cover countless times. He left such a lovely inscription too.
It sounds as though there is a side to the Major I did not get to see. Was it common for him to bring you gifts?
Not common, but if he had been away for some time, he would bring me a small memento from his travels. He hasn't done that in some time, though. There were. I'm afraid they may have gathered some dust being in the storage room for so long. I kept them in hope of giving them to my child when the time comes.
It sounds as though he had always cared about you.
His presence at the house was comforting for us both after Father died, even if sometimes he was a little too overprotective. They have often come to blows when it concerns Maman. They are both trying to protect her, but they themselves cannot seem to get along.
She spoke of his desire to join the, how do you describe it? Social elite.
This isn't the first time she has vocalized that concern. She thinks the Major was just using our family name to make his way to the top.
And you do not agree?
I will not deny he has shown interest in Maman's social circles, but they have been friends since even before I was born. Surely all those years of friendship was not just to raise his social standing. That's right. Ever since I can remember, Felix has been around.
It seems as though she has a number of support networks. The Major, her friendship with the Countess, not forgetting Monsieur da Silva.
Maman has many friends. I know how she may seem to most, but once you break the hard shell...
There is a further shell waiting to be broken?
Oh, very good, Detective.
Forgive me, mademoiselle. I only jest.
It's quite all right. You are not the only one that feels a razor tongue. She's grateful you are here, especially now, whether she shows it or not. How do you mean, Detective?
I imagine a house of this size is rather costly, keeping it in the immaculate condition it is in.
Maman looks after the financial side of the house, but I think she has had to ask him more than once for a contribution of sorts. It is not for me to get involved.
I shall not keep you any longer. Merci, mademoiselle. I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
Is this really necessary? He may have stayed in my home, but Felix was a grown man, Detective. What he kept, hidden or otherwise, has nothing to do with me.
But it does not surprise you that he had such a photograph?
We have been friends, and he has been there for Angeline for many years, but you find it strange that he keeps a reminder of us? Perhaps that says more about you, Detective.
What I do find strange is that if he did hold a flame for you, why he would never express it.
If he did, it was not reciprocated. I have not even considered another since my husband's passing. Not that it is any of your business.
I think that is all for now. Merci, madame. Magnifique.
Is this really who I allow in my house?
I did not think you were one for charity.
I would not expect you to think much of anything. There is no need to talk on it any further, but I'm sure you will remember that financially... He was a man that required no protection, Detective. Especially from me.
That is the impression I had of him, which is why your defensive stance warrants questioning.
Your insistent questioning on such trivial matters are getting on my last nerve. There is a murderer and a blackmailer to be found. That is your job here. How many times do I have to tell you? There was no romantic feelings between us. I have grown weary of this conversation, Poirot. There is...
Madame, you continue to withhold the truth.
And you continue to get on my last nerve. I am not obliged to tell you every detail of my private life.
But when it impedes my investigation...
If only you were this focused on finding the blackmailer and...
Madame.
Very well. I did not lie about how we met. I was attending an event, raising money for... Oh, I cannot recall now. It had been some time since I had returned home, and was rather missing English soil. I was aware of Felix's invitation, or at least that there was to be several British officers attending the party, and that is where our friendship began. He was a warm reminder of home, and I enjoyed conversing with him. We shared walks in the park and read together. As I said, he was a welcome distraction from the days spent alone. I shall go no further with the details, but I will say, I had no intention on being unfaithful to my husband. It was never our plan to go that far. Once I found out I was pregnant, I knew it had to stop.
The Viscount never questioned Mademoiselle's birth?
In his mind, he had no reason to, and he shouldn't have had to. It was my mistake to bear. If he knew the truth, our lives would have been ruined. I told Felix that he was to stay away, but he had no intention to. He became an uncle figure to Angeline, and they grew closer after Edwin's death. I could not tell her the truth. Too much time had passed. The secret remained only between him and I.
And what were the Major's thoughts on revealing the truth?
He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted her to know exactly who he was. But I told him no. It would not have been the poignant reconciliation that he expected. She would not understand. I tried to retrieve them from the safe after everyone had retired last night. But when I opened the safe, they were nowhere to be found. I assumed he must have hidden them somewhere else.
When I entered the study this morning, they were as visible as a red notice on a police station wall.
I would appreciate if you did not compare them to the face of a wanted felon.
Pardon, madame.
But that does mean someone else in the house has seen them. I don't understand. Why would they return them?
A mystery that is still yet to be solved.
It must be. But I have told no one.
And the Major?
Felix promised me he wouldn't tell a soul, and I believed him, even if he wanted to.
You did not think anyone knew, and that is why you disregarded the letter.
If you bow to these criminals, they will only try to claw more from you.
I think that is all for now. Merci, madame. Ah.
Detective Poirot, how is your investigation coming?
Monsieur Sterling, I must admit, I have learned much more than I was expecting to.
You'll be wrapping the case up soon, then?
One has never finished learning, monsieur, and in this case, I shall need to continue if I am to find the Major's killer.
It might help to vocalize your thinking. I'm all ears.
Monsieur, would you gather the guests and staff in the salon?
Right away, Detective. Can I ask for what reason?
I shall reveal all once everyone is together.
Detective, what is the meaning of all this?
Madame, I ask that you all lend me your ears for only a few moments. What I have to say is of great significance to everyone. You are all invited here to celebrate the engagement of Mademoiselle Angeline van den Bosch and Monsieur Gédéon Demire, the coming together of two prevalent families. But the celebrations were short-lived, as Major Felix Egan was found dead in his study by a young servant of the house. It then became my responsibility and obligation as a detective to uncover the truth behind his demise. My initial examination of his study exposed a number of things I did not expect to find. Things I have no desire to divulge at this time, but what I can say is this. It was no simple murder. A letter demanding ransom for a continued silence confirmed this. I am sure some, if not all of you, have heard whispers of a series of blackmails that have plagued the social elite in recent weeks. After hearing of the letters in the Major's study, you may ask if it was him behind the letters. You may further ask if he was preparing his next threat to another unsuspecting victim. It is a question that crossed even my mind. That was until I sought the truth. That in fact it was the Major that had fallen victim to our blackmailer Mystérieux. Last night I spoke with you all, confirmed your whereabouts in the house over the course of the evening, and while I would have expected such questioning to reveal a potential suspect, what I learned was that it could not have been one of you.
What do you mean, not one of us? The man was stabbed. He hardly did that to himself. There is still a killer in the house.
Pardon, monsieur, if you would allow me to finish. It could not have been only one of you. Rather a partnership, in cahoots, if you will. Conversations today have revealed facts that I was not expecting to discover. And although they may have muddied and complicated my investigation, what I must do to bring the guilty parties to justice has become clearer. Those of you that spun stories in an attempt to confuse and derail my investigation have made a grave mistake in underestimating my intelligence. Other detectives may fall for such deception, but I can assure you, Detective Poirot is no such fool. My investigation is far from over, and swift justice shall be dealt to those that have committed such appalling acts and have continued to mislead and lie to protect themselves. Now, I must continue mon enquête, and I shall leave you to consider that you may be beside a cold-hearted killer. Bonsoir. Monsieur Sterling, un moment.
Quite the speech, Detective.
Merci, but it was not made to entertain, more to warn the guilty parties that I am hot on their heels, no matter how clever they believe themselves to be.
Well, if there is anything I can do. Is that really necessary?
The murderer remains at large, and there is still no sign of the weapon. I would say that makes them essential.
Of course. I still just cannot imagine any of them being guilty of his murder.
It may be hard to imagine, but it is the truth.
I should have said this morning. I'm sorry.
Monsieur, I am not quite sure you understand the severity of what has happened.
I am well aware, Detective. I just thought she would be able to help.
Would you allow a man with a smoking gun to remove his bullet from a victim's chest?
I suppose not. Nothing. But I was so preoccupied with the Major. Sorry, Detective. Should I have?
Perhaps it was just my mind playing games again.
Maybe one of the guests got lost and wandered in. Master Hagen had a key, obviously, and Lady Vandenbosch. When requested, aye. If something is required from there when Master Hagen is not around.
Forgive me. If he is not around, how is it you access the safe?
It's not what you think, Detective.
What I think is that you have been trusted with a copy of the key, and you have lied to me about it.
I only lied because of the trouble I can get into with Lady Vandenbosch.
At this moment, monsieur, you should be more worried about the trouble you shall find yourself in with the law.
I know how it will sound, but I lost my key. I must have set it down somewhere, and it has been tidied away. Master Hagen asked so rarely for me to go in the safe, I didn't think it would be missed.
I would like to begin my searches now. Since it is closest, I will start with the west wing.
I may not be back when you return. Here is the key to the other rooms. Please return it when you're done.
Merci. I shall guard it with my life. Ah. Oh.
Entrez.
Aha. Ah. Oh. Huh. Huh.
The Detective, what?
In a purely professional...
There is no need to act so...
Madame, after the revelation of your actions last night, I'm afraid my sense of humor is all but gone.
I will not apologize again for merely trying to help. Shall we get straight to it then? Let us not waste your time any further, Detective. That would be Inga. She has been one of the most promising young women that has come from the shelter.
Madame Vandenbosch took in a young lady from your shelter.
There is no need to sound so surprised, Detective. She does have a heart.
I did not mean to sound so cruel. I just did not expect Madame to hire someone of that background after the incident with her previous maid, Florette.
People change, Detective. You should not judge someone on their past actions.
Believe me, Countess, I know that only too well.
We wouldn't be doing a very good job if I could only help one girl. I in fact found work for one of them as a maid in Monsieur da Silva's house recently.
She has fitted into Monsieur's home well.
What is better, Detective? That she remained in an abusive house, or she is able to rebuild her life with an honest wage in a prosperous house?
When put like that, is she...
The happiest she has been in years. I check in with them all as often as possible. And if there was a problem, I would know. Be careful, Detective. That almost sounded like a compliment.
It is your actions in this house that have been questionable, Madame. Your work outside is something that many more could take note of.
We do what we can.
Merci.
Go ahead, Detective.
Merci. Oh. Aha. Huh.
Go ahead. A compliment and now an apology. Well,
There was something I was still unsure of. You mentioned that your training was some years ago.
from my days as a nurse.
If that is so, why would you have brought several pieces of equipment usually found in a physician's bag?
One must always be prepared, Detective.
Prepared? At an engagement celebration?
If I had not brought them, I would not have been able to assist you last night. Perhaps you should be thankful for my precaution and not so suspicious.
Merci, madame.
Detective, what can I do for you?
Mademoiselle, I am sure you understand my reasoning for such intrusion.
If it's going to clear my name, be my guest.
If you wouldn't mind answering some questions, it can hopefully be cleared faster.
Like I said, he's not the man he wants everyone to think he is.
Oui. But how is it you came to that conclusion?
You don't really want me to recount every conversation I've had with him, do you?
There is one particular I had in mind.
An argument would imply it was a two-way conversation.
And that is not how it was?
Here it is. I've been helping Angeline get exposure, her marriage to Gideon is big news, and his work is really paving the way for others. I saw the chance to get their names out there, and he didn't like it.
What was there not to like?
Your guess is as good as mine, Detective. But if I had to, I'd say he was jealous it wasn't his name at the top of the article.
And his reason to storm off?
Oh, you know about that. Let's just say I didn't accept his pathetic attempt to get me to stop the story. If you're gonna try and pay someone off, at least make it worth their while. You've really got a fascination with that guy, huh?
I would not say fascination. An interest, perhaps.
Well, I'll save you the bother of trying to find out more about him. He's not that interesting. In fact, he's a bit of a wimp if you ask me.
That is not the impression I got of him.
That's because you've only seen the side of him he wants you to. He knows what to say in front of the right people. But behind closed doors, he's clueless. Let me guess. The first thing he told you was that he was a union leader. No, the voice of the people.
A man that is proud of his work is not something to be sneered at.
Don't get me wrong, he has a way with words, and he can certainly rally a crowd. But that's about it. At the end of the day, he's a representative and nothing more. He's got to play the part, not just learn the lines.
Merci, mademoiselle. I shall leave you to relax.
Sure thing, Detective. And if you change your mind on that exclusive about that shooting...
If I do change it, you shall be the first to know. Ah. Oh. Aha. Huh.
Go right ahead, Detective. All Felix cared about was money and filling his pockets with it. That's why he got into bed with De Silver.
The Major was not in need of money, though.
Need and want are two very different things. Did he need to move here and leech off the Madame? No, but he wanted to. As far as I know, De Silver hired him to work security. He was worried what could happen to his precious factories if things got ugly.
And your reporters were there to cover the story when it did turn that way.
My reporters go where there is news to be told.
And you predicted the violence that occurred?
Anyone could see that was gonna happen. If you ask me, Hugo should have acted sooner.
Merci, mademoiselle. I shall... Ah. Oh. Huh. Oh. Oh. Mademoiselle, we meet again.
Bonjour, Monsieur Poirot. Pardon, Détective Poirot.
Just a detective is quite all right.
Bon, can I help you with something? I was taking him a plate of food, but he didn't answer to my knocking.
You then entered the study.
I did. He wasn't moving. He just lay there.
I did not mean to upset you again. Seeing him there would be troubling for anyone, and I'm sure it is not a memory you wish to relive.
I suppose we're like a family. We argue, but most of the time we get along.
You must all be quite close.
Some more than others.
You refer to whom, mademoiselle?
Well, Maman Hay, sorry, Rihanna, she's been here the longest, and she's very close with Lizzie on account of Luc. Maman Hay is Luc's sister. You didn't know that? I thought she would have said. She talks about him all the time. It must have been awful, losing him in those riots. Apparently, he was right at the front when they were charged. They didn't stand a chance. If I had been the one responsible for his death, I wouldn't want Maman Ray looking for me.
Mademoiselle Rayana, Maman Ray, she has expressed her desire for revenge.
Every time she talks about what happened. I guess you wouldn't know anything about life on the streets.
It is not an experience I have had to face personally, but I understand that many are forced into it, and the lifestyle that comes with it.
The lifestyle of a thief, you mean?
Put rather bluntly, oui.
You are the first officer that has not taken one look at me and pulled out their handcuffs.
Mademoiselle, I can see you have turned your life around, and I commend you on your efforts.
Without the Countess, I would probably be rotting in a cell somewhere.
Merci, mademoiselle. Monsieur Demir, I hope you are feeling better today.
Nothing a good night's sleep couldn't fix.
Très bien. I wonder if you would be up to discussing certain matters with me.
Whatever you need. I lost my taste for death a long time ago, but it had to be done. I'm certainly in no rush to be carrying a dead body again, though.
Most understandable. I shall extend the same gratitude to you as I did to your brother.
You've spoken to him already. How is he?
Perhaps that should be a question you ask him yourself.
Yeah, maybe. I bet he had a lot to say. He always did have an opinion on the war.
When I say your past, I refer to your past as brothers.
Ah. Okay, well, what did he say?
It seems you both had the same sentiment for this party. Perhaps the bridges that you thought were once burnt are in fact primed to be reconstructed.
We'll see how probable that reconstruction is going to be. Until he sees my point of view, I don't know how we can move forward.
What is there for him to understand before the bond can be repaired?
He lost his friends in the war, the same as everyone. But somehow he has forgiven. I'm sorry, Detective, I can't. And Gideon just doesn't understand that. Those two, close.
They must share something in common to be able to hold a conversation for the time they did.
If there is one thing I know about my brother, it's that he will not. No. He cannot be rude. He just doesn't have it in him.
Was it not your brother that punched Monsieur Hagen?
Ah, that's different. He was asking for it. If you put my brother in a room with 5 socialites like her, he would work his way around every single one of them, offering his full attention and finest manners.
Merci for your assistance, monsieur. Huh.
Always got time. It's the dagger. I wondered how long it would take for that to become an issue.
I shall give you the opportunity to explain the reason for it being here before I jump to any conclusions.
It was going to be a wedding gift for Gideon. I've maybe not been the best brother in recent years. I thought this could make up for some of it.
They did that on purpose.
After what happened to the Major, I thought it was a bit tasteless.
You did not see it fitting to tell me you were harboring a rather sizable knife in your room?
I wouldn't say harboring. And I wasn't expecting to be a suspect in a murder.
Merci for your assistance,
Okay,
monsieur.
that's hilarious. Let me see the time. Oh, I can't see it over this. Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I see it.
What do you want to play? With Zoe in there?
No, I want to complete this chapter. How much is it? Yeah, I figured we did. Yeah. No, I know we're not. We got like 5 more? There's nothing, there's no clues? Yeah. We're,
You have to wait for I'll go back up.
okay.
It says link photo of Gideon and Zachariah.
But it's going to. I think there's 2.
Zachariah.
Nope, it is just 1.
Okay. It's under Gideon's room. Photo of Gideon and Zachariah. And Zachariah is hesitant to reconcile with Gideon.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
I should not be surprised by my own skills of
Okay, no, it's a murder game though, bro. It's you. Hey, you want to do a party?
Who's that?
Stevie. Say hi.
Hey, Stevie. Fernando.
Fernando. It's Fernando. He wants to come and join. Yeah, whatever. He already had one. What? I don't ever look up in the top of that corner, so I don't ever see any messages, so. It's Fernando. Hello? Bro, you're down on your. Hold on, let me turn off.